My first thought was, maybe there was some sort of identity theft or something that occurred.
And welcome back to Square Off. That was one of the 83,000 Maricopa County voters who received an erroneous email from County Recorder Justin Heap. It told them they had obtained a driver's license in another state and needed to re-register. The letter was wrong. Heap quickly blamed the printer, but emails obtained by 12 News showed one of Heap's staffers signed off on the letter. Heap later took responsibility for that. The politics panel stepping in now, Matt Grodsky, Democratic consultant at Matters of State Strategies, and Trey Terry, conservative consultant, member of the nonpartisan Goodyear City Council, and an Iraq War veteran. Welcome to Square Off. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thanks for having us.
See you guys here. We're going to chew this over and just find out just how bad the impact is. Before we go, Matt, any disclosures on folks you represent who might be discussed?
Sure. Communications for the Secretary Fontes campaign.
Okay, so that's kind of part of the Heap story and the Democrat story. Boy, you got involvement everywhere.
Yeah.
Trey?
I have none.
None here? Good. I want to talk first to the 83,000 folks who got that letter because I know there's a lot of confusion. You need to know you should have or will receive a letter that tells you you're going to have to re-register and show documented proof of citizenship in order to vote. If the recorder's office has not reached out to you yet via email or mail, check the recorder's website or give him a call. Very confusing situation. This is something, Matt, can you give us a quick backstory on why this is happening?
Well, quick backstory on why this is happening is elections have consequences, and we elected a new county recorder this past November who ran on, restoring integrity and common sense. How's that going so far? So they wanted to send this mailer, this letter out to people regarding their voting status, and instead it was an erroneous note that misinterpreted people's voting status. And then when the recorder was asked about it, he denied responsibility, threw it on a vendor, but has since backtracked on that. So I think that's the high-level gist, but definitely more to unravel on that.
And to be clear, because I've spoken to a lot of voters whose distrust has been activated, who are kind of anxious about this. Some worried they're being, Latino voters being worried that they're being kind of singled out, targeted by this. This corrects a voter oversight that affects 200,000 voters. Statewide, every county is doing this, reaching out, but in different ways. How much damage do you think this has done?
Well, I think it's important to remember we have a special election going on in Maricopa County as well. So I know of voters.
CD7.
Yeah, I know of voters who had a ballot in one hand and then that notice, wrongful notice, in another. But look, mistakes happen, but at the end of the day, you're judged on how you handle them. And I think erroneously blaming a vendor, then that coming out that his office has signed off on this issue, I just hope, being a new recorder, he learns from this, gets better, and hopefully can build up trust as we get into 2026.
It's hard to overlook the fact that, or wonder, if his name was Stephen Richer, would Republicans be coming at him a lot harder over this?
They would have jumped all over him. If it was Fontes, they would have jumped all over him too. I think the colossal glaring difference here is when you're an elected official, when you're in charge of any organization, the buck stops with you. And you can't just kick responsibility off to somebody else. And the fact that he did that just right out of the gate, I think it speaks volumes to his leadership caliber. So, it's a heap of something. We'll just kind of see what happens.
And the communication question, does he just need to get out there and communicate, and over-communicate?
Yes, absolutely. You cannot communicate enough when it comes to voters, especially when you're giving 90 days to verify your registration. And this is, he's serving at the county level. Us that serve at local levels of government, we're responsible for providing services accurately and efficiently. This isn't the legislature anymore. He can't just show up and vote no and then go home. He needs to stay, make sure the job is done, and communicate with voters. Hopefully he gets there. I look forward to him working with our county supervisors and making sure that 2026 goes off flawlessly.
All right. Let's move on. Alligator Alcatraz, the massive new ICE detention center in the Florida Everglades for migrants who have been arrested by ICE. If you remember Sheriff Joe Arpaio's tent city, you guys remember that? You ever visit there? Yeah. It is that times 100, and don't be surprised if Arizona gets one of those, given how much money for ICE is in the Trump budget. What message is Donald Trump sending with this detention center and the many others like it that apparently he has planned?
I think he's sending the message that cruelty is the new currency. You know, I just wondered, is this really what people voted for? Is this really what people want? I understand there were concerns about immigration. I understand people want a strong border. I understand they want laws enforced. But do we really want these pseudo concentration camps set up with a means to be cruel to other human beings? I'm just not sure that's what most voters in the middle, by and large, actually want. So we'll see what plays out. But it's an interesting calculus on this part.
As I discussed with Katie Hobbs, he has pretty much shut down the border. Is this next step bulking up ICE into almost a paramilitary outfit with all these, literally prisons around the country? Is that what voters wanted?
I don't take the alligator side of things too seriously, but I do think voters take the border seriously and border enforcement seriously. It's one of the main reasons Donald Trump is back in the White House right now. Voters want to see action on immigration enforcement. I think there's a time and place for theatrics. That's probably what some of this is. Donald Trump's, he's a great showman. He's great in branding. But at the end of the day, voters want action when it comes to immigration enforcement. And part of that is you are going to need detention facilities as you end up deporting those who are in this country illegally.
Well, let's hope that we're not deporting American citizens without due process as well, because that seems to be their MO thus far.
Okay. We'll move on to that because that story is not going away. Let's end with Democrats in disarray. Matt, one of your favorite topics.
Sure.
A cliche that just keeps on giving, unfortunately, for the Democrats. Yeah. We heard how happy Governor Katie Hobbs was with moving all the campaign-related stuff to the Navajo County Democratic Party. Why did that have to be done?
Sure. So let's back up and kind of explain how the party apparatus works really fast, right? So there's a Democratic Party that represents a state committee, right? And those are 600 plus individuals that decide the bylaws and the rules and all that. There's always a coordinated campaign that generally works in tandem with the party for important elections. Mission for Arizona a few years ago. So Copper State Victory is that coordinated campaign. Now the caveat this time is they're going to be running it through Navajo County Democratic Party. Because of the uncertainty that's playing out with the financial situation for the state party, the fact that they could be broke by the end of this year. So I think it's a good move. It shows that, you know, folks are moving forward despite, you know, the theatrics that are happening over at ADP. So things are moving forward and campaigns happen regardless of what's going on.
And chairman who might be out of a job within a week or two.
We'll see, yeah. So that recall vote is slated for July 16th, the start of my vacation, so I'm super thrilled about that. So we'll have to see, but you need 2/3 of the state committee to decide whether he keeps his job or not.
And whether Dems continue to be in disarray. Got to wrap it up there. Trey Terry, Matt Grodsky, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That's our show for this week. Thanks very much to all of our guests, and thank you for joining us on this 4th of July weekend. See you back here next weekend for another round of Sunday Square Off.